Hello everyone and welcome back to Agent Nagash, channel dedicated to Age of Sigmar, and in this video we're going to be returning back to the Maggotkin of Nurgle in the Army Archive series, and in this video in particular we're going to be looking at their command traits. Now they actually have 3 different lists to choose from for their command traits, and the important thing about this is that they have got one for ROTBRINGERS, they have got one for Nurgle Demons, and they have got one for Nurgle Mortal. So essentially, ROTBRINGER, they are your mortal Nurgle units that are actually within this battle tone, the Maggotkin of Nurgle. The Nurgle Demons, they're obviously your Nurgle Demons, pretty straightforward there. And then the Nurgle Mortals, essentially your Slaves to Darkness sort of ones. However, the interesting thing about this is that, so essentially, how does it work? So, depending if you're a ROTBRINGER, a Nurgle Demon, or a Nurgle Mortal, depends purely on what your keywords are. So you may have a Demon Prince as an example from the Slaves of Darkness that is dedicated to Nurgle, and then at that point it gains the Nurgle keyword. And the interesting thing about that would mean that it could pick from the Nurgle Mortal command traits and also the Nurgle Demon ones. And as each one of these command trait lists have actually 6 command traits to choose from, not 3, which quite a few of them have, it's split into like 3 different things. No, they have 6 each, so that means that Nurgle Demon Prince would be able to choose from 12 command traits in total. Okay, so jumping the gun a little bit, I'm just going to sort of explain what command traits are for people who, let's say, are new to Age of Sigmar. They're sort of learning it, or they've been playing Age of Sigmar for a while, mainly open play, and then want to start looking at the more competitive side. So essentially, command traits is what you can give your general. So your general gets 1 command trait and they can choose from a list, as we're going to go through. Now, your general cannot have a command trait if they are a named character. And also command traits, unless specifically stated otherwise, do not benefit the mount. So a clear example of this is, I don't know, let's say one of the command traits is called Blade of Destiny, and it allows you to get +1 to your hit rolls. That will not benefit your mount if you've got one, but it will just benefit the rider. An example of this is a Chaos Lord or Manticore. The command trait, as well as the artifacts we'll look in a different video, but they work the same, would benefit the rider, not the mount itself. Okay guys, so now that we've explained what command traits are and how they're going to work within the Nurgle Maggotkin Force army, let's see what we got. So like I said, we've got 3 different lists here. They've each got 6 command traits to choose from, and the first list we're going to look at is the ROTBRINGER. So what you can do with your command trait is that you can roll a d6 to randomly generate which one you will get, or you can pick. Everyone picks. If you're playing competitively as well, just pick whichever one you want, definitely. But you know, it's always cool if you come up with like a narrative behind it. Okay, so the first one we've got for the ROTBRINGER is Grandfather's Blessing. So once per battle at the start of your hero phase, you can move the cycle of corruption 1 stage forward or back if your general has not been slain. Okay, so I've talked about this one before when I looked at the cycle corruption in that video, and I said this one is one of my favourites already, purely because, right, cycle corruption, and someone pointed it out on a video as well, and they said that, hang on, the cycle corruption is just really, really random. You compare it to, I think they compared it to Nighthorn, it's just a really random allegiance ability to get as your battle trait compared to an army, such as Nighthorn, or many others, that just get a nice reliable battle trait and not too random. And that guy's absolutely right. The Nurgle one is pretty random. However, what you can remember is you can also summon things with Nurgle, and you get the Fecklent Narnors. So they're not completely random, but yes, the cycle corruption is. However, with this you can make it less random, and cycle corruption is pretty good. You know, it's not broken or anything by that stretch of the imagination. However, it's not bad at all. And being able to modify it just to make it that more reliable. Yes, it's only once per battle, but it could only need to be once per battle to make a huge impact. And especially just to try and get you to get the extra movement on turn 1 if you want to be a bit of an alpha striking army, something like that is really, really big. And that is why I love the Grandfather's Blessing. Also, it's a pretty cool name as well. Okay, so going on to the second one, we've got Living Plague. So at the start of your hero phase, roll a dice for each enemy unit within 1 inch of your general. On a 4+, that unit being rolled for suffers 1 mortal wound, and you receive 1 contagion point. Okay, so firstly, looking through this, I was going to say this is pretty bad. However, you get contagion point on that 4-up. Depends how much you want to go into the summoning demons route. If you want to pull everything into getting as many contagion points as you can, then the living plague is going to be for you. However, it has to be at the start of your heal phase, and the enemy unit has to be within 1 inch of you. So you really need this to be on a big combat dude, or just a guy who's going to get stuck into combat, and for him to survive. And to be honest, if this was on a 2-up, I would say cool. And you might think, well, you'd be getting far too many contagion points then. However, it's for each unit within 1 inch, so it's only really going to be 1 or 2 enemy units at the most, in all honesty, in most cases. So that's, what, 1 contagion point through that? Like I said, if you really want to go with contagion points, this might be good for you. However, it's just not good. It's just not effective enough for me to pick, personally. That's my preference on it. And then we've got Hulking Physique for number 3 on the command trait for the ROTBRINGERS. And this is add 1 to wound rolls for your general in the combat phase. Not bad, but... And you do have some combat-orientated generals for Nurgle. However, I think there are better ones to take than this. I mean, it's not bad at adding 1 to wound rolls. However, I much prefer things that benefit the rest of your army, like the Grandfather Blessings. So moving on to number 4, we've got Bloated with Corruption. So roll a dice each time you allocate a wound to your general in the combat phase, and it is not negated. On a 4+, the attacking unit suffers 1 mortal wound after all of its attacks have been made. Yep, that's pretty good. If the enemies chuck a bucket load of attacks at you, you know, you're talking about a big, you know, Daughters of Cain, or goblins, or Skaven, you know, just something that generates loads of attacks, skeletons, all these sorts of things, they are going to take a lot of hurt in return, as it's going to hurt them quite a bit. And I mean, to be fair, if you're playing against an army, and let's say you've got your Nurgle force, you've got Bloated with Corruption on, you know, a big, like, guy on a maggot, you know, a maggot lord, something like that, on one of those, you know, Nurgly beasties. If you've got one of those, and he's a general, and you've got this on them, and your opponent might ask, oh, what command trait you got? You go, I've got the Bloated Corruption. And they don't know what it does, but you go, oh, okay, whatever. And you might tell them, but they could easily forget. And then if they send something like a big unit like that at them, and chuck a bucketload of dice at them, they are going to take a lot of pain in return. And yes, your guy might die, however, at least he'll go down with all the pus and guts and blood and everything else with a Nurgle, all spewing over the enemy unit that just kill his chosen warrior, and the cycle of life continues. Okay, so moving on to number 5, we've got Avalanche of Rotten Flesh. So add 2 to run and charge rolls for your general. Yeah, I like that. Again, it's going to depend if your general's a combat-orientated one, or if he's just like quickly going about to get to objectives, but not really that too much. But it depends if he's a combat-orientated one, because you might want to get that turn 1 charge in. However, always with turn 1 charges, what I will say is they are only good if you've got something to support him, or you've got something very specific in mind. Just charging your general head on at the enemy turn 1, he might do some damage, but he will die. So have a plan in mind if you're going to do that with an alpha striking list. And then number 6, we've got Resilience. So roll a dice each time you allocate a wound or mortal wound to your general. On a 6+, the wound or mortal wound is negated. It's not bad, it gives him the death save, but he would get almost the same effect if he was just next to a mystical terrain feature. And this is going by what the mystical terrain feature was in General's Handbook 2018, just in case it's changed in 2019. But anyway, I think for Nurgle it should have been a 5-up because they're really resilient anyway. However, that's not the case, and that conclusion means for the ROTBRINGER, my favourite command trait you can give them is Grandfather Blessing, which is a little bit sad because that is a generic one that lives in both ROTBRINGER, Nurgle Demons and Nurgle Mortals for their command trait. So it's a shame to say like the generic one is the better one. However, in my opinion it is, just because I think being able to modify that cycle corruption that can be so random and could really be too random against your favour and really muck up a game plan you have, just to make your army more reliable, it's always going to be a better, especially compared to things like +1 to wounds, or, you know, like, I don't know, getting plus to run and charge. Now, If it was Sinesh army and you're getting plus 2 run and charge, I'd say fantastic. However, that's not the case. So, going with that, and like we said, Nurgle is pretty fast, but yeah, Grandfather Blessings is the best one, being able to modify the Sign of Corruption. Only once per game, but can be hugely impactful. Okay, so then moving on to Nurgle Demons. So, firstly, we've got Grandfather Blessing again, so you can modify the Sign of Corruption, so I've already gone through that. Second, we've got Living Plague, and this is the one where you roll a dice in your hero phase for each enemy unit within 1 inch. On a 4-up, they take a mortal wound, and you receive 1 contagion point. I think it's alright, but there's probably only going to be like 1 or 2 enemy units in range of you, so that's only like 1 contagion point, and it has to, you're already going to be in combat for it to work. So, yeah, it's too many things have got to be in place, and you might not get any contagion points. Right, the next thing is Hulking Physique, which we've already looked at, and this is the add 1 for wound rolls for your general in the combat phase. Now, unless there's anything which the Nurgle Demon heroes have, like on a 6 wound, they do this, and that's a modified 6, so it can be, you know, pluses to it. So basically a 6+ to wound and getting +1 to it, and basically generating their ability on a bonus, unless they have something like that. Again, I don't think it's particularly good. Like I said, I don't want to refer to Grandfather's Blessings the whole time. However, I'm very much looking like I am doing that. Okay, the next one for number 4 is Tainted Corruptor, and this is at the start of each of your hero phases. You can pick a 1 terrain feature that is within 3 inches of your general. For the rest of the battle, that terrain feature has the Sickness Blossoms scenery rule from the Feculent Narmor War Scroll, in addition to any other rules it already has. Now, first when I read this, I was like, oh, that's really cool because you're generating more contagion points this way, and so on. And it's the start of your hero phases, so you can pick 1 terrain feature. You can be doing this chain reaction, it would be amazing. However, it is only just that 1 rule that makes enemy units take a mortal wound on a 4-up if they're within range of it. It's not that good, if I'm honest. I mean, it might put the enemy off going near it, but if that was me and I really needed to get to an objective that was near there, I would just take the chance of taking 1 mortal wound in a 4-up. It's not going to stop me. It doesn't even give you the ability to be able to run a charge near it for your Nurgle forces, so it sounded amazing, but it's not actually that good. Okay, number 5, we've got Nurgling Infestation. So once per battle, at the start of a combat phase, you can inflict D3 mortal wounds on an enemy unit that is within 3 inches of your general. Now, this could be really good because you just need to finish an enemy character that's got 2 wounds left or something like that, or you just need to finish an enemy unit. So then that means that you can partly attack to something else because this isn't even in your hero phase you do it. But once about, no, I don't like this. I think there are better things. I was hoping it's going to be Nurgling Infestation, D3 more wounds. If you kill something, you get to generate a Nurgling base, something like that, but you don't. So yeah, not a massive fan. It's like a free Arcane Bolt, what it used to be. What isn't bad at all, but once per battle, there are better things. Right, and then number 6 is Pestilence Breath. So at the start of your shooting phase, pick 1 enemy unit within 6 inches of your general and roll a dice for each model in that unit. That is within 6 inches of your general. The unit suffers 1 mortal wound for each roll of a 5 or more. Now, obviously against elite armies, this isn't going to be so useful. Obviously, if your character's on a small base, it's not going to be so useful for your general, because small base means less models are going to be in range of him. However, you've got a great unclean one. The enemy's massively piled in around him with, again, a horde unit, as they are the best examples used for this. You are going to be doing a bucket load of mortal wounds, because it's not once per game this, it's just every shooting phase. And yes, it's at the start of shooting phase, but what this means is, it's a case of your opponent, if they charge you with a horde unit, that's stupid. They're just going to have to cut their losses and retreat, because a great unclean one's so hard to wear down anyway that it's sort of a war of attrition trying to kill it, especially with a horde unit again. And the enemy's just going to go, you know what, this isn't worth this. I'm taking so many battleship deaths from just this Pestilence Breath and the other damage it's doing to me in the combat phase. And yes, I mean, you would have to survive the initial assault by that big horde unit, but if you manage to charge a horde unit and then bog them down in combat and keep them breathing them doing this and attack them in the combat phase, your great unclean one, you can do a hell of a lot of pain. So for the Nurgle Demons, my 2 favourite ones are going to be Grandfather's Blessing but also I think Peasant's Breath has a place. But Grandfather's Blessing is the one I'd go for. And yes, it's a shame, it's a generic one, but the generic one's just so damn good. My honest opinion, it just makes such a random mechanic. Not reliable, but certainly more reliable than it was before. So yes, I do like that indeed. Because also Grandfather's Blessing, it's not just a case of, oh, once per battle you can just choose the effect you want. No, it's also, if you roll a bad one for your first turn, and you sort of got a game plan, you can shift it by moving it backwards one or forwards one, which means that you might, not just for that turn, go, okay, well, I'm going to move it back one so I benefit from this ability in this turn, which is good for me. But I've also lined myself up to benefit from the following effects in the consecutive turns. So yes, I do think Grandfather's Blessings is the best one for that. And then we move on to, finally but not least, is the Nurgle Mortal command trait. So like I say, this is can be for your ROTBRINGER, as they, majority of them, if not all of them, have the Mortal keyword. Can also be things like Slaves to Darkness, which the majority probably what it's going to be. If you've got a Slaves to Darkness force, you want to put in a Nurgle army. And also, like I mentioned before, with the Demon Prince, as he has got the keywords for both Mortal and Demon. Right, okay, so going into the command traits for them. Firstly, we have Grandfather's Blessings, we've already talked about that. Then Living Plague, we've already talked about that. And then Hawking Physique, which we've already talked about. So, essentially, obviously reading through all of these now, the first three of each of these lists to choose from, depending for ROTBRINGERS, Demon or Mortal, they're all the same. So you do get a 6 for each, but half of all of them are the same, so... yeah, but, you know, that's not always a bad thing, though, because sometimes there could be like, right, okay, I've got, I don't know, I'm taking a ROTBRINGER army, mainly, that's my focus, got a lot of Blight Kings and so on and everything, and I really want this command trait, but unfortunately, only Nurgle Demons have got access to it, which is really kind of annoying, because I don't really want to go down that route. When you just share a lot of the command traits, it just makes things a lot more flexible. So, like I said, it's not always a bad thing. But anyway, back to the Mortal command traits and going on to their full form, which is actually their first unique one. And this is Hideous Visage. So subtract 2 from the bravery characteristic of enemy units while they are within 3 inches of your general. Okay, so that's a pretty big reduction. Take away 2 is usually only take away 1. You can obviously stack this with things like, is it the Hallowgeist, which is the Nagash and the spell, which came from the Forbidden Power box set that was released not too long ago, and I say the Nagash and the spell because it's the one with Nagash's head. There's that makes the enemy -1 or -2 to their bravery if they're close enough. So if you do that, that's already -4. There's things like the Purple Sun that's came down in points, which is another ender spell that makes the enemy another -1. So already looking at -5, and there's other ways you can make the enemy -bravery if you really want to go down that route. And the other thing with that is that, yeah, if you make an enemy unit really minus to their bravery, the enemy could just go, well, I'm just going to spend a command point and Inspiring Presence them. So, you know, they almost want you to feel like you've wasted your Battle Shock bomb. However, what that means is that your enemy has just wasted a command point for something they were probably wanting to use for something else. Unless they're Gloomspite Gits, because they just get far too many command points. Okay, so moving on to number 5, which is Overpowering Stench. So this lets you reroll hit rolls of 6+ for attacks that target your general in the combat phase. So if an enemy unit attacks your general and they roll 6+ to hit him, they're rerolling that. Now, generically, that's not bad, that's quite good. If you fight against a Slanesh army, for an example, let's say, I don't know, you've got in your local store, you often play against one buddy and he's got a Slanesh army. Every time a model in that Slanesh army gets a 6 to hit, it generates an extra wound. If you're making them re-roll those 6s to make it unlikely that they will get a 6 again, then yeah, you're really going to start... It's not so much annoying them at that point, you're really just going to start pissing them off. Which I am all in favour for. Obviously, as a Slanesh player, as a new one, I would say, please don't use it against me. However, if it's not me directly involved, then I don't care. Whatever more fuckery goes around, the better. Okay, so then moving on to number 6, we've got Vigilant Contagion, I think that's pronounced. So improve the rend characteristic by 1 for attacks made by your general in the combat phase. Okay, remember, this will not affect a mount. However, it will affect other things. And the nice thing about this is that there's not many ways in the game to improve your rend characteristic. There are some examples here and there, but there's not too many. And having the benefit of that. Now, Having more Rend since Age of Sigmar 2nd edition does not matter as much as it was in Age of Sigmar 1st edition, because that's the simple change in Mystic Shield, which I've already talked about before on this channel, and that's Mystic Shield used to give you +1 to your save and not re-rolls of 1 to your save. You're quite new and that's all you know of Mystic Shield, used to give you +1. So that meant there are a lot of armies out there with really good saves. You know, we're talking about 2+ saves, which is very common for the Stormcast. They could pull it off really easily. And then of course every other army generically got better in its saves, and then you also got Death Star units, people like to refer to them, like big monsters or big nasty damage dealing units that people would just chuck Mystic Shield on just to give them an even better save, so even harder to kill, and so on. But now because of the change in Mystic Shield, it means that Rend is not as important. However, Rend still has a place, because yes, you might fight against, again, another reason why Rend's not as important, you might fight against Nighthaunt and they're just going to ignore all your Rend, and that's generally going to be really annoying. Like I found out in a game recently when I played against Nighthaunt with my Slanesh stuff, and I was chucking -2 and -3 Rend at him, and he did not care at all. So yes, that is their good trick up their sleeve. And then of course you do also have armies such as, you know, we're talking about Seraphon with their Star Drake scale shields that ignore like -1 Rend, etc, etc. However, for the armies that really do not have any good standard save, shall we say, so we're talking about 5+ saves, so to be fair, Slanesh Demonettes, a lot of the death stuff, obviously not Nighthaunt, but you know, skeletons, etc. Even Flesh-Eater Courts don't do too well when you chuck Rend at them. So yeah, there are armies out there that are definitely going to benefit by you chucking additional Rend at them, but of course bear in mind that it's not going to work every time. You go to a tournament and you fight a varied of lists. Rend, extra Rend obviously is going to help you out majority of the time, but not always. So with that, again, my favourite command trait is going to be Grandfather Blessings. Now if you guys play Nurgle, you may completely disagree with my opinion on this, because like I say, I've never played them, so I'm not too sure. I've never played a full Maggotkin of Nurgle Allegiance, like big battle. However, I just feel modifying that Wheel of Contagion is such a big point. Being able to, you know, like I say, modify the Cycle Contagion is such a random mechanic. Powerful, but random. If you can just try and control and harness that power, if you like, it's just going to make your game plan a bit more reliable. Now, it might not be completely reliable, because you might be really wanting a result, and it only allows you to go up and down on the cycle by 1. You know, you can go backwards, so you can go forwards of it. So you might roll your dice at the start of the game, you might be on the complete opposite side of the cycle, where going up and down is not going to give you the result you want at all. That's part of the risk. But not every army is perfect, apart from Stormcast, because they all hate Stormcast and they can all be flayed alive, in my opinion. Okay guys, so that is the end of this video, where we've looked at the command traits for the Maggotkin of Nurgle, we've looked at the ROTBRINGERS, the demons, and the mortals for, you know, things like Slaves of Darkness, that sort of thing, but also ROTBRINGERS as well. Okay, so I hope you've enjoyed this video guys, and if you have, please like, subscribe and comment down below, so that does all massively help me and really does support the channel, and it's completely free for you guys to do so. If you'd like to support the channel a step further, I've now got a Patreon account, and this is a way to get income to the channel, which really does help support that, seriously, that next step of being able for me to provide you content on a more regular basis, better content, being able to purchase the battle tomes that are used for reviewing armies, such as this Maggotkin of Nurgle battle tome I bought so I can review the army properly. Things saving up towards a better microphone, things like a camera, so it'd be cool to do battle reports, that sort of thing. So I know a lot of you guys have requested that, and also for me to be able to justify the time I put into the channel really does massively help. And on that note, I'd like to thank my 4 vampires and Patreon. These are people who are Tier 2s, these are people who donate at least $5 a month to me, and this is going to be Cole, Max, Simon and Martin. So again guys, thank you very much for your help and your support towards the channel, and for all those things I've just mentioned, it really is helping towards that. And everyone else who watches this, and if they do enjoy the content, is also a big thank you to you as well. So cheers guys. And if you can't support me on Patreon, that's absolutely fine. I'm just really happy that you came and watched this video today. Remember, if you've got a Nurgle army and you'd like to tell me your thoughts about them, because it's not just me who would benefit from it, it's all the other people watching as well, people who want to play Nurgle or are having to fight it a lot, please put those thoughts and those strategies down below in the comments, and that'll be absolutely great. Okay guys, so I thank you very much for watching this video, and remember, until next time, Nagash is all, and all is one in Nagash.